Hello, my friends. How are you? Thank you for stopping by. My name is Jason, and this is the Outstanding Life Show. I was traveling earlier today, so I'm a little bit tired, but my commitment to you is to show up regularly. And I've done pretty good so far this year. I wanted to have a commitment so that we go live more often with shorter episodes. So that's what season 2 is about. We did season 1 earlier, and that was long form, but we went deep into each topic, and we covered quite a bit. We're still going to be going over more information in season 2, but we're going to be going lighter on the topics, but we're going to be going more often. We're going to have themes. So this month's theme is going to be step 1, because we have 12 months in a calendar, so we're going to do 12 steps. So by the time we finish the whole year, we would have gone over quite a bit of info. And then I'm taking in the information and I'm uploading it to YouTube afterwards. I do have some show notes that I've got set up. If you wanted to get them delivered to you, go ahead and type notes in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, the typing notes won't work. So you got to go to the address, and the address is outstanding.video/notes, and then we'll have the message sent out to you as well. Now, I do have everything saved on a WordPress blog, so in case you wanted to go read and catch up and see what the previous episodes were, or if you want to go and take a look, I do have a couple of days in advance posted. So if you want to see what we're chatting about tomorrow or the next few days, you can definitely go ahead and read that. Or, again, I can bring them to you. It's as quick as typing notes or visiting the link below. All right. So if you're watching the live show, that's amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you're watching the replay, definitely let me know that you're enjoying these. I do get a lot of messages from my audience, and so I want to take a minute and celebrate that. There's some pretty cool things you ask me. And it's actually based on those questions and comments that I help shape some of these future episodes. There's some comments I get in private messaging. I get comments when you leave comments on the live, and I do get back to them as much as I can. But the best way to get a hold of me is definitely come check out the live show. Again, we do go regularly. So that being said, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. We talk about everything recovery related. We talk about addiction. We talk about mindfulness. There's quite a few things under the sun that we cover. But again, if you're interested and you want to know more, let me know. If you have ideas on future topics, something you want to find out more about, or you just weren't too clear on something, again, feel free to reach out. I'm always here. So this month, we're talking about step 1. So with step 1, we're actually chatting about difficult situations. Now, I don't know about you, difficult situations are never really that easy. Now, I think there's a difference I want to share about. There's a difficult situations, and then there's uncomfortable situations. In my mind, I see them as two totally different things. If I'm uncomfortable with something, that just means I'm uneasy. I'm not at ease. I am not in a, I don't want to say a normal state, but I'm not in a point where I know that if I'm in a difficult situation, I'm having a challenge with it. Like I'm being tasked with something to push forward through. And if I'm having a challenge, or if it's not easy, and I think there's uneasy, which is the uncomfortable, and then there's the challenge that I'm pushing through is difficult for me to manage. So when it comes to difficult situations, for me, I would find myself in difficult situations when I would be blaming other people. Now, I don't know if you can relate to this, but if you can, let me know. Just type a note in the comments if you agree. When I start blaming other people, I know that I'm not taking ownership. And what do I mean by ownership? Ownership, we've talked about that before in the past, about the in the addiction state of my life, at that darker point, I would blame other people. It would always be their fault why something didn't work. It was always their fault why the girl left me, or I lost my job or these catastrophic events, that I would describe my life. Like I would see myself, it's almost like those third parties where you're like the backseat driver, but it's your own life. And then it's a slow moving car, but it's headed towards this horrific car crash, but you're the one that's driving, but you're also the back seat and you're observing it. I don't know if you can relate to this, but as I spiraled out of control, as I spiraled more towards these difficult situations, I would see them like on a blip on the map. I would see them long in advance, but yet because I would focus on that for so much, so often, so much of my energy, my effort, like I poured mountains of energy into focusing on these events, and they weren't serving me. They weren't serving other people. They weren't serving the greater good. And yet, surprise, surprise, guess what happened? I would find myself in these difficult situations, but that was also where I focused. And I would avoid responsibility by blaming other people. It was their fault why this happened. You know, my boss wasn't very nice to me. That's why I did a poor job. I wasn't being treated that well as a boyfriend, so that's why I treated my girlfriend. Like these things, I would feed myself these lies, these misconstrued viewpoints, and it doesn't justify any of the behavior. Like I'm not any more of a person because I blamed other people. In fact, it wasn't until I took that first step, it wasn't until I admitted I was powerless over alcohol and other drugs, that I was able to then, I don't want to say see clearly, but I was no longer letting my ego get in the way. You know, I don't want to say I never really finished the program. That's not the right word. Because once, even if I don't know if you can relate, but even in the 12 steps, it's not like you go from step 1 to step 12. I was telling my friend the other day, because she was asking me like, are you still working your steps? I was like, yeah, of course I am. She's like, but I thought you finished that already. And I was like, well, it's not, you just work the steps once and then you're done. Like, that's it. I'm over. I wish it was that easy. And, you know, from a normal person perspective, I can appreciate their concern. Like they were actually asking me if I was okay. Like was I in a safe place? Like going through that, she knows I went through a lot of work to get to the point I'm at now. But her concern was asking, you know, have you finished your 12 steps? Like, am I at a safe spot? It's not her fault that she didn't appreciate that. The 12 steps is something that I'm going to continuously work on forever. Like, I've never really finished the program. I never get done. I never reach recovery. Like, recovery is not just a destination that I arrive at one day. We talked about it before, that recovery is something that I'm doing every day. So, even though I'm not done the program of 12 steps, in a very similar fashion, like there's no way I can be done taking responsibility. And I think a better way to phrase it, and this was the show title I used was, you know, I don't just want to live a life. I saw this on a Star Trek episode where I think it was Commander Riker, and there was this alien species where they could convince anybody to fall in love with them. And then this alien species convinced Riker to fall in love with the alien. And then sure enough, Riker fell in love. And Riker, in case you don't know, is the #1 officer to Captain Picard. And so Riker goes and he acts all in love. And it shows that he's in love. And yet, while he's acting that way, he said, but you know that I don't really love you. And the alien was like, well, what do you mean? No, you're acting like you're in love. And he's like, yes, but it's not true love. It's not just, you know, I can act in love with you, but that doesn't mean I'm actually in love. I haven't voluntarily fallen in love with you. This isn't true love. This isn't a true life. This isn't a true way of living. And even if we kept going like this, that doesn't mean that I voluntarily want to be here. And then as soon as he said that line, the alien was like, well, I don't want this anymore if it's not true. Even though I can make you, I don't want this to be true. And I relate that back to my recovery. So just, you know, for so long, for many years, you know, I thought, you know, if I just avoid my responsibility, I won't have to deal with my addiction. If I avoid, you know, addressing my alcoholism, if I never give it a voice, if I never bring it forward, if I never label it, I never have to worry about accepting it. And in avoiding it, I wasn't really living life. I was just barely getting by. And so, circling back to that Star Trek reference, I'm never really, if I'm white knuckling my way through life, that's not really living life. Like, yes, I'm getting by, but that's not truly living. I'm just holding on for bare life, just trying to skid through my day to day. I'm just hoping to make it to the next payday, which is never really a true way to live. Like, let me know if you agree. And so when I was barely getting by, I wasn't at a spot where I was living a healthy, happy life. And it's nobody's fault except my own. And it took me so long to appreciate that. I don't just want to live life. I want to live a full and complete life. I want challenges. I want vulnerability. I want to have this sense of fulfillment and satisfaction, so that at the end of the day, when I slide into the bed 10 seconds before I fall asleep, I know I've done good. I know I've done right. There's this sense of fulfillment that I gain from living life on life's terms. That includes addressing this, I almost want to say the darkness, but that part that I avoided for so long. I became really good at shining light on certain things, but I also became really good at not drawing the attention of where the dark parts were. So now I thrive going to work in those shadowy areas, and then I bring the light into those areas, so they're not so scary anymore. They're not so dark anymore. I do get bad days, yes. Like, there's no shortage of bad days. Don't let me fool you here. And the bad days, they never really go away. Like, they're still there. I just have less of them. I still have my challenges, but because I accept my responsibility and because I bring forth my transparency, my honesty, for sharing with you guys here, it's pretty open, and I do want to be clear and transparent. I don't like to hold things in, because the more that I hold things in, I'm actually just stuffing my emotion. And the more I stuff, the more I'm not expressing, and the more I'm containing it, and the more I have a chance for resentment to build up. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but there's no good that's come from resentment in my life. There's no good that's come from blaming others in my life. There has been good when I accepted responsibility. There has been good when I've shared my feelings. And sometimes I'm not, maybe I've got my perception wrong. And I don't know that unless I share where I'm at. And so I've become proficient at sharing my thoughts. I'll become, at the beginning I was having a hard time sharing what I was thinking. Well, when you only have two emotions in the beginning, it's really hard to express all the other emotions in between. Now that I've become more open about my recovery, I've been able to describe things in a little bit different way. So there's no wrong way to do it. I want to be clear and transparent with that. As long as I'm sharing my feelings, sometimes I'll share something, and then as soon as I give it a voice, as soon as I label it, as soon as I give it texture, as soon as I make it real, I'll then appreciate where my position's coming from. I'll start to realize what part of me is feeling this way. What part of me is feeling a sense of pride. What is causing me to feel this sense of dissatisfaction? Am I letting myself down? And I want to be an accountable person. I want to have responsibility. I don't want to blame others. I want to have less bad days. I'm not going to stop them from happening, but what I can do is set myself up for success, so that when the time does arrive, when that opportunity for responsibility comes forward, I'll take it. I'll share. I messed up. I made a mistake. I'm not, I'm fallible. Like, I do have my opportunities, but I also grow through them. It's not the end of the world when I make a mistake, but it is the end of the world if I give up when I make that mistake. So there are times when I'll have an opportunity, but I want to push through it. I'll celebrate the moment that I have a chance to shape it into something more. If I'm at work and there's a bad call, as an example, it doesn't mean that all calls are bad. It just means hey, you know what? There's something that's a part of me that wants to grow. There's something that wants me to shine through this. How can I do that? And that's where asking larger questions will lead me to better answers. But if I'm not expressing myself, if I'm not being accountable, if I'm not taking those initial steps to push through it, I'm never going to be able to see past something I don't understand. Okay, so in every one of these episodes, I do want to have something cool. So I want to have a call to action. So I've got a gratitude of the day, but I've also got an action of the day. And if you're new here, let me know. Again, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. If you like what we're chatting about and you want to know more, I have some show notes set up. So if you type notes in the comments, we'll have them sent out to you. And if you want to know more, I do have a blog set up, but I also got things set up on YouTube and Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and type outstanding.video/notes. And if you're watching on Facebook, just go ahead and type notes in the comments and we'll have them sent out to you. All right. So just before we finish up and wrap up, I do have a gratitude of the day. And today's gratitude is, I'm thankful for being reminded that avoiding responsibility only puts a distance between me and my recovery. So the more responsibility I'm avoiding, the greater the distance I am between myself and my recovery. And one thing I try and celebrate is there's no room. I don't have any room in my life to create that distance. The risk is too large. I have too much invested in my recovery that I don't have time for ego. I don't have time for any of these character defects. So by assuming responsibility and by taking that ownership, I reduce that gap. And the goal is to remove it completely. But I know I'm not perfect. I know I have my opportunities, but I embrace them willingly and I'm not afraid of them. Okay, so that's my gratitude of the day. If you have your own gratitude and you want to share, let me know. Put them in the comments or just shoot me a message. I really appreciate how honest and transparent you guys are. You do send some pretty unique questions to me, and I do want to make an episode about that. I'm going to share some of the questions you guys ask me, and then I'll share some of the answers. But I do want to get through season 1 just so we can capture a lot of the information. We'll see how that goes. And then, so today's action is, I want to think of a time where I blamed somebody for something, even though it was completely my fault. It was really my problem. When, growing up, as you hear adults, they'll say, when you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So when I'm not assuming responsibility, when I'm not taking that ownership and I'm blaming somebody else, what was the last time that I had an opportunity where I could have done that? I know I'm not perfect, but I can think of a time where what could I have done differently to help shape this into a better outcome? So these are some pretty real questions, but I do want to share them with you and I want to ask what your thoughts are. But I want to thank you for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. Again, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. If you want to know more, I look forward to seeing you again in another one. Okay, take care.